Johnny, Ryan's on the line.
Hello?
Yeah, what's up, Ryan?
What the hell's going on, man?
Just a villain all over campus, man.
Is Johnny all right?
Johnny Manocchia has been an absolute embarrassment.
He didn't start acting like this until he got his job.
You're not a villain. You're the most misunderstood human being in my entire life that I've ever met. I mean, I brought you here because you're my favorite guy. I've never seen a guy work harder. And I don't know where you are in your life right now out of the studio. All I know is you got a lot of things going. There's a lot of people that have an opinion about you, and whether it be good or bad, you're in the spotlight all the time. Let me ask you this. Do you want to be on the box score or not?
Man, I've been trying to be on the box score since day one. I've been working my ass off harder than anyone. I don't know why it's a question of me being on the box score. It's like, do you guys want me to be on the box score?
Please stop all this and just get in front of the camera. How hard is that? You're a great correspondent. Step in front of the camera.
I'm more than just a correspondent, man. I'm a real person. It ain't about the show. I know I can do that. I show you guys that on the daily. This is my life. Ain't no more games.
Welcome to the Box Score. We've got a lot in store today, but first things first. It's October. The leaves are turning orange, apples are being picked, Miley Cyrus has a new boyfriend. It's cuffing season, baby. But more importantly, I guess, it's also postseason baseball time. If you looked at the past 40 years or so, you notice there's a team that has not won a playoff series since 1981. That team would be the Washington Nationals. And when they won that divisional series against the Philadelphia Phillies in 1981, they were called the Montreal Expos. So yes, they were the poster boy for postseason failure. One could even go as far to say the Cincinnati Bengals of baseball if you wanted to. Only difference is the Nats didn't keep the same head coach for 16 years without anything to show for it. Point being, these Nats are different. They bring fire. They bring swag. Juan Soto brings the Soto shuffle.
1-0. Tracks another one in. It's 2.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but so is the pitcher probably, so it works, whatever. Most importantly, though, they're winning games and finally doing it when it matters most. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's the difference then? 2 words, Bryce Harper. I know that sounds ridiculous. The $330 million man himself. The issue? The chosen one? The former 19-year-old MVP? Supposed force in their lineup for years? It's easy to immediately think of the on-the-field impact and statistics behind Harper's career in D.C. Yeah, he mashed homers and made flashy plays with his bat and arm. He even hit a broken bat home run. Who wouldn't want that on their team? But it's easy to forget he's the same guy who tried to fistfight Jonathan Papelbon in the dugout. He also got tossed from a fair number of important games for the Nats over his tenure. In fact, Bryce was ejected from 11 games since he got called up in 2012. That's good enough for second most in the league since that time. Only second to, wait for it, Matt Kemp. Honestly, good for Matt Kemp, though. You sign a $160 million deal and do absolutely nothing to actually validate those earnings, might as well lead the league in something, right? But back to Bryce. Look, I'm not doubting he scares pitchers. Just ask Hunter Strickland. But when you're too big and bad for your own teammates, that's probably an issue, especially when you're the star who everyone looks at. Yan Gomes could be the nicest dude on the planet, and his teammates could love him. But I bet more than half of you didn't know he's the starting catcher for the Nats. Point is, stars are leaders, whether they like it or not. And it appears that Bryce Harper does not. You need to be the glue that holds your team together, the guy who everyone is comfortable around. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be comfortable around a guy who uses not one, but 2 blow dryers to do their hair. Yeah, and clearly he's not insecure about that at all. Now, if you're a dude who uses one blow dryer for their hair whenever they can get their hands on one, you're me, and I respect that. But if you use two, the respect goes out the window. Moral of the story, Bryce Harper and the Phillies just wrapped up an incredibly disappointing 81 season and are watching the postseason from whatever island they're vacationing on while sipping on some fruity Mai Tai. Meanwhile, Max Scherzer, Juan Soto, and the Nats have their feet kicked up as they wait upon their next opponent in the World Series. You tell me if their postseason problem seems to be solved. We're now going to shift to one of the largest growing industries, not just in the country, but across the globe, esports. So what does a gamer look like? How hard is it really to pick up a controller and dominate the game? Well, lucky for you, we had our correspondent Hannah Brewitt infiltrate the Smash Bros team at Emerson to get some answers. Let's take a look at what happened.
They get it up to Kenny. Josh, got to go to Quake. Quake puts it up for the triple. Double and he got it!
The world of esports, or competitive video gaming, is a rapidly growing phenomenon. As of early 2019, the esports industry surpassed $1 billion in revenue, and researchers anticipate that in the United States, esports will have more viewers than every professional sports league but the NFL by 2021. I decided to stop and chat with Emerson's very own esports team to find out what the buzz surrounding this quote-unquote sport is all about.
Hi guys, nice to meet you all.
I ran into a graduated box score alum.
Hey, how are you? I've done a little bit of research. Let's get our esports on.
I know the question you're all thinking. How can playing video games possibly be considered a real sport? Here's what they had to say.
Me coming from my background, in high school I sailed competitively, and I had people try to tell me sailing's not a sport. Like, it's not a sport. It's in the Olympics. It requires like physical dexterity. It requires like sharp mental skills. It requires, in some senses, teamwork. You have to practice it. You have to put the effort into it. There's a competition and there's a winner. So by definition, it is a sport.
I don't actually believe esports are sports. That being said, I don't think them not being sports means they should be taken any less serious. I think they are. There is competitive skill involved in esports. I would say, your average esport, the professionals and the people who are getting paid to do this for a living are practicing just as much as, your top paid athlete is.
Physical dexterity? Check. Sharp mental skills? Check. Sounds like I'd be pretty good at Super Smash Bros.
It's so comfortable in your hands. What should I You see what I'm getting at. Alright, I'm nervous. I'm gonna get my
That's her recovery. She has a little balloon. She allows her to pocket any projectile. Support smash.
You and I are gonna play around a Wii tennis one of these days, and I'm going to kick your ass. For my first time, I could have been worse.
You got some damage on me.
Yeah, got a little bit.
A lot of popular esports, such as Overwatch, are created by a company called Blizzard. Blizzard has recently condemned players for participating in the Hong Kong protests. We asked these gamers their thoughts.
I think that's absurd. I have not played Overwatch in a while. I used to play on our school's team my freshman year, but I kind of drifted away from it, got more into Smash. I think that Overwatch, that Blizzard is just alienating a large part of its fan base, and it's kind of a weird disconnect because Blizzard's always been saying like, oh, like we're like this woke company, they're saying like, oh yeah, like this character is like LGBT, and like, oh, like this, like they're trying to pander to different groups, and then it's just this is showing their true colors. They're a corporate business, and that's kind of a shock for some people. I for one am not surprised at all. People saying, oh, how could Blizzard do this? And it's like, any other company would do this. It's just the nature of the business. Doesn't mean it's good, it's horrible, it's bad, and I think it's fantastic how some fans are stepping up and like making a statement about it.
Overall, it just seemed like they were very fast to act against him. They were very fast to ban him, to take away his money, to ban the commentators, to do whatever they could to be in damage control.
After a long night of gaming, the team likes to unwind at Maria's with some post-game burritos.
No, he's not.
Emerson's esports community is only a small glimpse of the empire that this industry is becoming. Back to you, Ryan.
Well, there's no question. They clearly think it's a sport. No debate there. I'm now joined by Michael Lagerwell and Brenna Shelton. Talk some football. Guys, this season's been one of the more unpredictable ones in recent memory. The Bills, 4-1, second place in the AFC East. The 49ers, they're undefeated. The Vikings and Kirk Cousins, they know how to win now?
Yeah.
So tell me, which one of these hot starts can you see fading away?
So I think the Carolina Panthers are going to start fading fast. I mean, their whole offense is run through Christian McCaffrey, and he's starting to slow down. I mean, the Bucs held him to 31 rushing yards on 22 attempts. And when they go into places like at Green Bay and at San Francisco, Kyle Allen's going to have to prove he's more than just a game manager.
I think it's going to be the Bills. I know that's a hot take because they are undefeated right now, but I just don't see them going as far as they could. They've not been playing very good teams. They barely beat the Jets. They beat the Bengals, who are still not a great team. They're not playing up to their potential, and I think that it's going to decrease when they start playing different teams. I also think that it's important to note that Josh Allen doesn't really have that much offensive protection in front of him. You saw him get taken out in the game against the Patriots. You see that he's consistently getting sacked at an average at least 2 a game. So I think that they really need to, if they're going to continue this success, is be well prepared for these better and heavier hitting teams.
I understand the Bills' take, right? Because their best offensive weapon, you can argue, is Frank Gore, and I think he's started to collect his 401k by now. When you look at the Panthers, though, to call Kyle Allen a game manager, he's won 4 straight, and you could say, okay, Christian McCaffrey's been slowed down. They still beat the Bucs by 11 points.
I mean, and Troy Aikman won 3 Super Bowls. Game managers can win, but it's more prevalent on the team that's built around them.
So if he won 3 Super Bowls, I want to know what the argument is. He clearly never slowed down in the 90s.
Oh, no, the argument is that he didn't need to slow down when you got to throw the ball up to Michael Irvin and you got Emmitt Smith leading the league in rushing yards every year.
So you don't think that Christian McCaffrey is the same quality of player that maybe an Emmitt Smith was?
Well, also I feel like the Cowboys' success was based a lot on their offensive line, and I just don't think the Panthers have that good of offensive line.
So you look ahead, do you think that someone like Cam Newton, when he's healthy, gets his starting job back?
Oh, 100%. This Kyle Allen thing I view as a flash in the pan. Cam Newton is where the future of this team is at, and if they can stay healthy, I think they can make a deep playoff run.
And Brenna, Bills are only 1 game back from the Pats. No chance?
I just don't see it happening. I think when they go head-to-head against a team of the Patriots' caliber, that they're not going to be able to hold their ground. The teams that they're playing are not at the same level of Super Bowl champions. So right now, they're playing teams that, the Jets have a losing record, Bengals have a losing record, and I just think once they start playing teams with a better record, that they're not going to be able to hold their ground.
Yeah, well, both of these teams have surprised a lot of people, so we'll see if they can keep it going. Take it to the flip side now, right? There's been a lot of shocking surprises. Give you a good example. The Chargers the other day lost to the Steelers in their 12th string quarterback. So they sit at 2-4 right now. Which team do you think that's gotten off to a slow start can you see playing meaningful games in January?
So this is going to be a little of a shock, but I think the Jets will be playing meaningful football in January.
In January, when I say January, that means playoffs, right?
Yeah, no, the Jets definitely have a window to make the playoffs. Sammy D has found his spleen, and with that, the Jets now have a respectable downfield passing attack now that Robbie Anderson's being fully utilized. And I mean, you saw it the other day. They beat the Cowboys, who a lot of people picked to win the NFC East and who are still in it. I mean, this Jets team, I think, is the real deal. Also, their schedule is super easy. Like, they play they could easily win like 7 of their next 8 games, and that only loss being to the Patriots on Monday or Thursday night.
Brandon?
My pick would definitely be the Browns right now. I really like the dynamic that they have within the team. I know that the play calls haven't been the best. I know the coaching staff is obviously new, but the players are new. And I think as the season progresses, he's going to get a better handle of what to do with Baker Mayfield. It's only his second season consistently starting with Odell, who just got traded. I think once they get a hold on figuring out that dynamic between the coaches and the player, they have a lot of talent. It's undeniable how much talent they have. It's about finding a cohesive energy. And I think when they start playing teams like the Dolphins and more low-ranked team, the Steelers, who also have been playing well, once they play those teams, they've had a really hard schedule to start. I mean, as much as they've been going back and forth losing, they've been playing really hard teams. And I think that as their momentum gets started, that they can be a powerhouse.
It's been interesting, though, because Freddie Kitchens has been there for a little bit. You would think that maybe he has kind of a rhythm with his quarterback, Baker Mayfield, with guys like Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and it doesn't really seem to be there. I'm just wondering, you saw the Eagles back, and I believe it was 2012. Vince Young proclaimed them as the dream team, and then they proceeded to not make the playoffs. Do you think they have too many personalities on this team?
I definitely understand that take on that. However, I think personalities are good. I think personalities are what drive people. If you're someone who's boring and on the back, I don't think you'll ever be able to have that leadership role in that outstanding position. And so as there are these different personalities, they're coming together. They're working hard and they're going for it. And I understand the argument. I just don't think that that's the issue right now.
Yeah. And the Jets, man, you gave everyone a good laugh at home. Thanks.
Wow.
All right, we're 6 weeks in, so we'll see if the fate changes for any of these teams. We'll see. Not the Jets, though. Guys, thanks for sitting down with me. Appreciate it. When we come back, we've got Avikar Gloff and Jacqueline Galvin giving us their top 5 NBA storylines to watch before the season starts, and round 1 of Sports Court between Hannah Brewitt and Michael. You won't want to miss it. We'll see you in a minute.
All right, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera 1. Camera 1, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera 2, close up on the person shooting.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this big one.
Camera 1, get a close up, follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1, close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Hey, we're your roomies, your homies, your new living best.
We live here too.
Thanks.
Action.
Do you have any idea what time it is?
It's time.
7. Oh. 7? It would mean a lot to me if you guys watch.
Welcome back to the box score. With the NBA regular season just a few days away, there were certainly some key additions and subtractions in the offseason, but no move would have been as damaging as if China had lost LeBron. For more on that and everything else in the NBA, we kick it over to Jacqueline Galvin and Avikar Gloff in Top 5.
Thanks, Ryan. So for my number 5 storyline to watch this season, I have for the local crowd, the Boston Celtics. See how they do without that cancer in the locker room, Kyrie Irving. See how they do with Kemba now, Enes Kanter. See how the rookies kind of fall into place, because it's definitely going to be a young team.
Similar to what Ryan alluded to in the beginning, my number 5 is the whole China fallout. What's going to happen with the league? There are billions, potentially billions of fans that are on the line here. Globally, China is such a power and influence in the NBA. This has become a social issue. It's become a political issue. What LeBron James is saying, that's being talked about. This is something that the NBA is going to need to have a resolution to sooner rather than later.
For my number 4, I have Ben Simmons finally being able to hit a three-pointer. How will this affect the 76ers offense, and seeing how this will affect the East in general?
Speaking of the East, that's my number 4. There are 2 teams, according to me, in the East. There's Milwaukee, and there's Philly, and then there's everybody else. There's such a big drop-off. I'm very interested to see who in the East is going to step up. Who is going to make this a competitive race going into the finals?
And for my number 3, I have the battle for LA. We have the Clippers and the Lakers, the first time in a while that the Clippers have actually been relevant. You know, there's tons of Lakers fans in LA, but will the Clippers draw that fan base to them instead of the Lakers?
My number 3, Zion Williamson and the rest of the rookies. Zion's been talked about a whole lot, but not really anyone else in the rookie class an extensive amount. I'm going to wait to see who's the number 2 guy that comes right behind Zion.
Well, for my number 2, I do have Zion Williamson. I have him seeing how teams actually cover him because he seems virtually uncoverable in the preseason.
Well, my number 2 has got to be the new tanking format. It definitely affected last year's draft with the new draft lottery odds. This year, with Zion Williamson being the number 1 pick, that definitely showed the impact this new system has, and it will continue to affect the tanking teams this year.
And for my number 1, I just have free agency in general. You know, the 2019 offseason was absolutely insane. And just seeing how all of the new additions to these teams, like in Houston, for the Nets, seeing how that dynamic works and how the dynamic is now shifting from the Bay Area to the rest of the nation.
My number 1, it's LA, baby. The sunshine is shining bright in Los Angeles right now. And look, the Lakers and the Clippers, they're going to be in our headlines every single day. These two teams are heavyweights for the title. They have the star power. Everything's there. It's going to be all LA all the time. So that's our top 5. We'll send it right back to you, Ryan.
Welcome to Sports Court. We've got a bit of a different setup this year with the bracket to determine a champion at the end of the season. Our first round matchup features 2-time champion Hannah Brewitt taking on Mr. Turtleneck himself, Michael Lagerwell. The case being presented today is if Los Angeles Dodgers manager Dave Roberts should be fired from his position following yet another disappointing end to a 100-plus win season. Defending the manager will be Hannah, while presenting the case for a new man at the helm is Michael. We'll start with opening statements and hear from the defense first. Hannah?
Thanks, Ryan. For the 3rd consecutive year, the Dodgers season has ended with Dodger fans begging to fire Dave Roberts. Yes, the Dodgers just lost to a wild card team following 2 consecutive trips to the World Series. And yes, it's always easy to point the finger at the guy at the top. However, let's not forget the path that led the Dodgers to their dramatic collapse. Roberts also just led the team to a franchise record 106 wins. The team has won 4 National League West titles and 2 NL pennants in his 4 years in the dugout. He might have missed the ultimate benchmark a few times, but shouldn't these accolades count for something? No other team would fire a manager following a franchise record-winning season. And upon further examination of the game that ended the Dodgers season, the issue might necessarily not have been that Roberts played the wrong cards. The issue might have been that the players he trusted in the late innings underperformed. For instance, Clayton Kershaw historically underperforms in the playoffs. However, Kershaw did perform well in the 7th inning. He made it out unscathed, and Roberts liked what he saw. Roberts took a chance on Kershaw, and if it worked out, the same fans booing him would have called him a genius. His trust in his players and his willingness to take risks is admirable. And I'll admit, an elimination game might not be the most appropriate place to take risks, but Roberts and his staff can take that experience to learn, adapt, and improve. Firing Roberts would not reflect his career as a whole, it would reflect his performance in small sample. The answer here is to look at the big picture. All factors considered, Roberts has earned at least 1 more year to take a shot at ending the 32-year championship drought.
Dave Roberts has been the manager of the Dodgers for 4 years. Each year, the Dodgers have won their division. This seems like a huge accomplishment. However, the Dodgers have always had the best team on paper in the NL West. And each year, Roberts' postseason managing skills are keeping this Dodger team from becoming what they should be, a dynasty, instead of what they are, the Mariners of the National League.
Michael, I thought you were never going to shut up. Now that we've heard both statements, I'll open the floor for debate. We'll start with Michael this time.
All right, so in their most recent postseason loss, Dave Roberts brought in Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw historically is a great pitcher. However, he has a 5.79 ERA in his first inning of work this year. Why would you bring a notoriously slow starter in a short relief outing? And even then, why would you send him out there again to face Anthony Rendon and Juan Soto, 2 of the best hitters in the National League, when Clayton Kershaw is notorious for giving up home runs?
So I'm not going to argue that Dave Roberts I think Dave Roberts didn't do a great job managing that final game of this season. However, there's an entire body of work to look at here. And even as I said, if you look closer at that final game, the way that Dave Roberts manages, he's a former player, he's a field manager. He's not the kind of guy that's gonna play by the book. And I think obviously it's like flipping a coin. So if it worked, it would have been great. Obviously it didn't work this year, and I don't think historically he has made decisions like he did in that final game that would lead to say that he has no idea what he's talking about and needs to be fired.
Well, you know, I'm kind of glad you brought up historically, because in 2016 in the NLCS against the Cubs, Dave Roberts decided to intentionally walk Jason Hayward and Chris Coghlan. Now, Jason Hayward was batting under 100 that postseason. And Chris Coghlan, well, that intentional walk was the only time he got on base that entire postseason. You can't tell me that's a good decision, because then that led to a Miguel Montero grand slam, which turned the game from a 4-4 tie into an 8-4 Dodger loss. He's consistently done this throughout the postseason, and it's getting to the point where the Dodgers are a great team. You can't just be leading them to what they would do naturally.
So I think the answer here, obviously, it takes a lot of work to get to the playoffs. And I think Dave Roberts has done an excellent job of getting the Dodgers to that place every single year. Obviously, they missed the ultimate benchmark. However, I think the answer to this is to put another voice into the dugout. I think adding another veteran coach who can maybe give that extra reason. So Dave Roberts, he likes to go by his heart. Put another guy that maybe has been there, has won, and hit that ultimate benchmark to give him another voice in his head to say, maybe, you know, this isn't the best idea. I don't think the answer is to completely remove him. I think he's done a great job getting the team there, getting the wins, bringing these guys together, and I don't think he deserves to be removed from the clubhouse entirely.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say that Dave Roberts has actually gotten the Dodgers to the postseason. I would argue he's just continuing what Don Mattingly was doing in 2013, 2014, and 2015 when he led them to the postseason all of those years. Dave Roberts has done very little to actually affect the Dodgers that hasn't already been set up by Don Mattingly and by their amazing front office.
But do you think, and that's another thing, so I'm glad you mentioned the front office. I think a lot of people don't realize that the front office has a lot more to do with what goes on in these games than people realize. You know, this isn't something that's kind of come out, but it's something that you have to consider. Payrolls,
the biggest payroll in baseball?
Yeah, the biggest payroll in baseball. That affects who they bring into the game. There's other voices that are also could be playing into this factor. I think people forget that the front office does play a role in deciding who goes into these games. It's not all Dave Roberts. And it's easy to put it on his shoulders because he's the guy that's making that call. But there are a lot of other factors here to consider. And I think everyone's putting it into this smaller sample size. I mean, yes, you brought up 2016, which I'll give you that. That's a great example. However, I think if you look at 2018, I think they got outplayed by the Red Sox.
I would argue in 2018 that they shouldn't have only won one game against the Red Sox. You can't tell me that Astros team they took to 7 the year before was not as good or better than that Red Sox team. You can't lead your team to that situation and only lose one game, because it's not like, oh, the Dodgers never been to the postseason before, they don't know what to expect. No, this Dodgers team has been here every year.
How come these players are continuing to underperform?
Because a certain degree, you as a manager, you have to motivate your team. You
motivated them to 106 wins this season?
I mean, shit. No. Or like how he motivated Joe Kelly to go out there and give up a grand slam in his second inning of work when Kenley Jansen was still in the bullpen. Kenley Jansen, one of the best closers in baseball, I might add.
Here's the thing about Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly was on that Red Sox team last year that also made the Dodgers. He helped kill the Dodgers last year. He did it again this year. Joe Kelly, he had the worst ERA going in the postseason.
Yeah, so we should get rid of Joe Kelly instead of the person who put them in that position.
He played great in the postseason last year.
All right. All of a sudden, that turtleneck got a little tight. You've both made a strong case, but it's time for closing statements. Hannah, we'll start with you.
There's more to baseball than making choices based on what statistics tell you. There's value in taking chances and believing in your players. Robert's managing style is just that. He's a former player and a field manager, a strategy that might not always work out in his favor, but when it does, it pays off big. If the problem is to fix the Dodgers, the solution shouldn't be to fire Roberts. The solution should be to work with him. If he manages with feel and heart,
Give him another veteran dugout voice to add vision and perspective. There are ways to work around this problem. Firing Roberts would be the impulsive, short-sighted move, and a move that the Dodgers would quickly come to regret. Regardless of his recent missteps, Roberts has established himself as one of the more successful managers in Major League Baseball, and he is definitely worth keeping around.
Managing teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees is one of the easiest jobs in baseball. You have all the tools, you have all the resources to get the job done, and the Dodgers have shown that this year. Oh, Clayton Kershaw isn't the best pitcher in baseball anymore? Who cares? Have you heard of Walker Buehler? Oh, we missed out on signing Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. Who cares? We'll just have Cody Bellinger hit 400 for the first half of the season. Winning the division with the Dodgers is not an accomplishment. The only real accomplishment Dave Roberts has had in LA is managing to throw away spectacular regular seasons with borderline idiotic decisions in the postseason.
Well, when we return, we'll hear from our jury on who they believe made the strongest case on the fate of the manager's future. Don't move. We'll be right back.
Mind, the human brain is, after all, a structure. And
Alright, coming back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera one. Camera one, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson trails
Camera 4, get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera 2 close upon the person shooting.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this big one.
Camera 1, get a close up, follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1, close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Hey, we're your roomies, your homies, your new living best.
We live here too.
Thanks.
Action.
Do you have any idea what time it is?
It's time.
7. Oh. 7? It would mean a lot to me if you guys watch.
We're back here at the box score and ready to hear from our jury on their decision. Jury number 1, how do you find?
So it was a close call, I'm not going to lie. But after some deliberation, we have to side with Mr. Turtleneck, Michael Lagerwell. Just the statistics don't lie. That's all I'm going to say.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, there you have it. Congrats to Michael on the first win of the season, advancing to round 2 of the Sports Score tournament. Hannah, enjoy the rest of the tournament from the couch, I guess. Now to close things out here on the box score, we're heading to the pitch to talk some soccer. That's right. Esports and soccer all in one episode. It's called Diversity. Get yourself ready for it. We're now going to kick it over to the Hot Take Factory and our new correspondent, Oliver Chamberlain, for an interesting take on who will be wearing this year's Champions League crown at the end of this season. Oliver, take it away.
Thanks, Ryan. I know it's hard to believe we're talking about soccer, so all of the millions of fans out there currently watching, don't go away. Now, when we think about European soccer, we first think of the big boss, the crown jewel of Europe, every rich team's kryptonite, the Champions League. So here's my hot take. Manchester City is going to win the Champions League. First, though, I have to start by mentioning why other teams aren't going to win it. Why isn't Liverpool going to win it? Everyone knows that it is almost impossible to win the Premier League and the Champions League in the same season. The only way that this would happen is if Mo Salah were to become the best winger in the world, and if everyone on the team's muscles were made out of pure titanium. Barcelona's not going to win it, well, because they're Barcelona. Being Barcelona means you have the best team on paper, but love not being able to finish it when it matters. Talk to me when you actually win a second leg, kids. Bayern Munich, well, why am I even talking about them? I mean, Bayern hasn't even competed in the league since all of Dortmund's players sold out. And all the rest of the supposed contenders, well, let's be real, they're not actual contenders. So, Manchester City. Well, for starters, they aren't battling it out for first place in the Premier League for the first time in about 5 years, giving them an excuse to focus on the Champions League more than in the past. And even if they do end up gunning for both competitions, only Manchester City can confidently say that they have a great bench to back up the first team. What's more, this tournament is one entirely based on your ability to score goals. Currently, Manchester City sits at the top of the charts across all of the big leagues in Europe in terms of goal differential. And finally, I mean, we can't just sit here and not mention the brilliant squad that Guardiola has put together. Kevin De Bruyne has proved himself as the greatest midfielder currently playing the game, and he has started this year with an absolutely incredible 1.3 assists per game on average. Alongside him, Sterling, Aguero, and Bernardo Silva have already proved themselves to be a brilliant attacking trio with a combined goal tally of 18 goals in only 8 games. At the end of the day, I think it's Manchester City's tournament to lose. Back to you, Ryan.
Not even mentioning Real Madrid? I guess that's what happens when the unquestioned best player in the world heads over to Juventus. No offense to that guy, whoever he is, plays for Argentina. It's just the Portuguese blood, man. It's made out of gold. What can I say? Unfortunately, that's all the time we have here on the season premiere of The Box Score. To keep up with Season 8, our new episodes, and the old and fresh faces you see here, check out our Facebook page and our Instagram page at TheBoxScore_EIV. This has been The Box Score. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.